We're
What is
live.
going on, everyone?
What's happening, Dirk?
Yeah, it's just another day in paradise. So,
Well,
um,
that's lovely. I'm kind of excited about tonight's guest. We got a pretty cool guest.
I knew you would be when I was kind of excited to tell you about him. That
Yeah,
he agreed to come on and everything because I knew you're a big fan.
yeah,
So
his work. Yep.
let's just bring him on, Mr. Robert Carter from Robert Carter Knives. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Welcome.
What?
So, Robert, you come from a long lineage of knife makers, don't you?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Can you let some of the viewers know, like some of the names that, some of us might be familiar with?
All right. So, yes, my grandfather, he's a pretty famous knife maker or knife designer. He designed the Griptilian and several other, the Presidio and several other knives. And he has a lot of your dagger designs and stuff like that are in production still. But my grandfather is Mel Pardue, and my father is Joe Pardue, which I don't think Joe was that. I don't think he was that famous or anything, but Mel was.
Actually, I knew of Joe
For
pretty
sure, yeah.
much too. I seen plenty of Joe's knives.
Oh, he definitely made a lot of knives, but I don't think he demanded the same respect and uh, design wise as Melvin did, because
Mhm.
like the Griptilian is still the number one selling knife that Benchmade has.
Had
Oh, I'm
those.
sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty cool, man. And then you kind of just came along and, just added to it, which is pretty awesome. I know I've been in your knife group for a very long time on Facebook, and and there's a lot of those guys that just show off some of those great pieces you've made over the years. And one of the things I really respect about you is that you make some of your own materials,
Yeah, of
which I
course.
think is freaking awesome. Like the Rob Mascus is really cool looking. It all looks like low layer, and it's pretty awesome, the stuff
Well,
that you
I
make.
definitely prefer the low layer stuff over the high layer count. Like, don't get me wrong, that's beautiful as well, and it has its
Mhm.
place. But if you're gonna make a non-San Mai, just a regular Damascus blade, I want a lot of weird stuff to be going on
Right.
with the pattern. So usually I do about 48 layers, and then
Okay.
after I pattern that, it ends up being like 30. After you clean the
Mm.
material up, get it ready to be processed and actually turn into a knife blade, it usually ends up about 30 layers. And the titanium Damascus as well is about the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Very
usually ends
cool.
up about 30 layers exposed.
I think the
Yeah.
low layer stuff does have a bit more of an interesting look in some ways.
Yeah,
And that was something I think you caught on a little earlier than some others. And that was one of the first thing I noticed, because if you got like really cool titanium Damascus with one big blob of yellow and then like some purple and blue mixing along with it, like at a low layer, I always thought it was just a little more interesting looking than just a bunch of little striated lines, which is cool too. When
Right.
they like Chad Nichols does a great job, with his patterns and the boomerang and everything else.
Mhm.
But that was one of the highlights with your knives I always found was that you do make those low layer stuff, and it really it stands out. It gives the knife a lot of personality. I think each and every piece, even if they're the same model, they just all have
very,
so much different character to it.
yes. Everything should be very unique to each individual knife.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so tell us, so you obviously didn't start making knives as a kid.
No, I
Give
did.
us a little background as to like when you started making knives, how you got into knives. Was it the father and grandfather influence? So you were always sort of into them? Kind of like how did you get where you are now?
Well, actually, whenever I was young, I was probably 7, maybe 8 years old, my stepfather, Joe Pardue, because my last name is Carter, so I'm a step kid.
Okay. Yep.
So my stepdad, I want to say he was in his late 20s at the time. He wanted to start making knives again because he was on a job over here in Texas from Alabama, which is where my grandfather lived at. So
Okay.
he met my mother, and him and my mother got married. But I was around 7 or 8 years old whenever he's like, I need some fucking help in the shop. We'll get you out in the shop. We'll start getting you to cut out liners and punch holes and, do profiling and whatnot. So that's what I did, like all summer long.
Okay.
And yeah, I was 7 or 8 years old. And finally, I was like, I kind of want to make my own knife. So he pulled out a chainsaw bar. And he's like, you want to make your own knife? You literally have to make your own knife. He pulled out a chainsaw bar and gave me a hacksaw and said, cut out the middle of this chainsaw bar. It's good steel, but you got to cut it out yourself. And I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I worked on it. And it took me almost 3 days of cutting that with a hacksaw of like out of a chainsaw bar. And he's like, all right, now that you got your shape done, think about your design, your handle, how it's going to feel, what kind of chopping and cutting, like, is it going to be a skinner? Is it a chopper? And he literally just handed me the reins and said, go for it. So I cut ugly ass knife. I was 8, 9 years old. I cut this really ugly knife out, and I used regular 2x4, like pine 2x4 as a handle material. But I actually did some like a rock pattern in the handle, and I made it look really good. And then I dyed the handle red, which looked like hammered shit, but it was
7 or 8. What do you know?
It was still a very sharp, good knife. Like I ground it with a 12-inch wheel, and it was a huge fixed blade. And yeah, it was not a bad knife, and I still have it somewhere. I just don't remember what I did with it. It's somewhere still, though.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I was 8 or 9 years old, and I made my first knife. And I didn't make another knife until I was probably in my mid-20s.
Okay. But you still helped out in the shop even after you made your first knife?
Yeah, absolutely. I still shop, still cutting out liners and cutting out frames, punching holes, and doing, just grunt work in the shop. And then my dad said, I got a bunch of orders that came in for A.G. Russell. I got a bunch of orders.
Oh, cool.
And I need Damascus. Like, I don't know, like, what is that? Like, what do you need? He's like, this is going to be Damascus. So he showed me how to make Damascus, how to forge weld Damascus, how to pattern it, what I needed to, stack up. And like, he just taught me how to make Damascus. So he was like, I don't care what you're doing. Get your ass out here, fucking service grind these little plates. And I need you to make Damascus for me. I was like, all right. So I would be out there just forging Damascus all day long. That's all.
Damn.
I'd pattern it, upset the layers. That way, the layers go like this instead of like this. So the layers would be, upset. So I'd pattern the Damascus, and it was usually 1095 or 1084 with nickel.
Okay.
So I'd go out there and I'd make all this Damascus for them. I'd clean it up, get it all surface ground down. So we're talking taking like 3-inch thick material, forging it down to 1/4 inch, and then service grinding it down to 1/8, because, whenever you pattern the layers, you have to take what's in between, right?
Right.
And clean off all the pattern scale. So it would be like almost 1/4 inch thick, and I'd have to service grind it down and get it to his thickness that he liked, which was 1/8 or even 90 thousandths or 93 thousandths. So there was a lot of work, and that's all I did all week long. And of course, I wasn't getting paid for any of that work.
No, free labor.
Yeah, like I was 10 10 years old learning how to make Damascus.
Oh man,
So, and that's all I did all day, all winter, all summer. That's all I did was make Damascus
right.
for my dad. And I was making so much Damascus that my grandfather also was like, send me some of that Damascus. So we was packing Damascus up and sending it all over the place. Of course,
That's crazy.
I wasn't making any money off of it, but I was definitely making Damascus every day.
Hey, we all got to put in our, put in our work, right? Before you can start making money.
Yep,
But
exactly.
One of our guys is asking us if you know how to do feather pattern Damascus.
Absolutely, yes. I definitely know how to do feather pattern Damascus, and I've done it a couple of times actually. It's not the funnest process, but it's not that bad actually. As long as it's like 1095, 1084 with nickel, yes. A feather pattern Damascus is very achievable and possible. I've done it several times.
Awesome.
I just always thought it was it's one of those patterns that you really I've seen a bunch of it and I only like the way it looks sometimes.
Well,
that's how I feel about it.
So you start out with like 1095 and 15 and 20. I honestly I like the nickel better than the 15 and 20 because it shows more contrast, but 15 and 20 is also a hardenable steel. So 1095, 15 and 20. You want to start out with like 16 layers or 28 layers. Just depends on whatever you want. And you do some crushed W's and you keep cutting that and restacking it until you have enough crushed W's to where it's going to look like, like, I don't know. It's like it's a W pattern. And then you restack that and then you reforge that. And then you come down, you get this squared up, and then you come with a wedge and you go right through the middle of it, cut it in half, put it back together and reforge weld it. And then the thickness this way is your size of your billet.
Ah, gotcha.
What's your favorite pattern to make?
My favorite pattern to make is the easiest pattern to make. Because a lot of people don't understand, like whenever you forge Damascus, there's a pattern scale that you have to grind off after you upset the layers. So if you have this thick of material, 3/8 or whatever, and then you upset the layers, well, that material becomes 5/8, which is 625 thousandths. Well, you have to take that 625 thousandths and turn it into 200 thousandths or 3/16 thousandths, or like 1/87.
Right.
So a lot of people don't understand, how do you take this material from this to this? You have to fucking grind that pattern off. You have to grind all that shit down.
Right.
It's a lot of work, and a lot of people don't understand the waste amount that you have to make one 12 by 12 billet.
There's a lot.
Or a 6 by 12 billet or a 4 by 12 billet or whatever you're forging, like whatever size that you're trying to get to is a lot of work, because you end up, whenever you upset those layers and you press that pattern, the negative and the positive of that pattern that fits like this, whenever you press that steel, it makes it way bigger than it should be. And then you have to grind all that excess off. That way you have those big layers like this that are ingrained on this and not this. It's a lot of work. It really is
a lot of work for sure. And I don't think that like we all love the way it looks and we know there's work to it, but I don't think that us consumers really understand the amount of work that goes into we're not even talking about making the knife yet. We're just talking about making the steel.
Just the material, yeah.
Just the material. So Stasa 23, thanks for joining, Stasa. It's been a while. We haven't chatted. He says, Rob, where are you from? And I know we talked about this before we went live, but
I live in Hillister, Texas, which is south. Well, it's east southeast Texas. which there's nothing really to report from, like out here, but I'm north of Beaumont and northwest of Houston.
All right. And then Will Carey did you go to the Maritime Academy to learn ship captain duties or to the Navy?
I was in the Coast Guard briefly, and then of course there's a place in Morgan City, Louisiana, that I went to train and do all my captain stuff.
Very cool.
That was like 20 years ago. I can't remember the name of that place, but it Morgan City for sure. I can't remember the name of the. Oh, what is the name of that fucking place? It's Morgan City. It's a maritime academy place for sure.
Okay.
But I cannot remember the name of it. It's in Morgan City, and that's where I went and I did all my training and everything for the Coast Guard.
Chef Rock, welcome.
And there's also another place where you do all your helicopter training and your Hewitt training and stuff. There's another place in Abbeville, Louisiana, like where they train you to actually break out of a helicopter if it crashes and all that good stuff.
Okay. Stasa says he lives about an hour from Morgan City.
All right. Well, he probably knows where it's at. It's Morgan City, but it's like right next to the Days Inn in Morgan City. Like right off the main drag. I cannot remember for the life of me what the name of that place is, but it's right there in Morgan City.
Very cool. So you made knives for Dad way back when you were a kid in slave labor.
Yeah, of course.
And then you went off and joined the Coast Guard at some point, did some real jobs. And then you came back to making knives because you wanted to, because you got bored with real work?
No, absolutely not. Like I love the job that
Pure Part, I think is Stasa says, is it Pure Part?
It might be now, but it was called something else whenever I was going there.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the place, but it's definitely in Morgan City. It's a maritime academy.
Okay.
I just can't remember the name of it, but it definitely at the time. So this was almost 20 years ago. At the time, called Pure Part, but it might be now.
Got it.
But yes, so I was 18 or 19 years old. And of course, I went into the Coast Guard. I was there, and then that became a contract type thing due to Bush passing that law, the Homeland Security Act or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
It changed everything. So I literally went from that to a contract worker.
Okay.
And then, of course, I went from there to Sea Corps Marine, which is also a contract through the Coast Guard, Sea Corps Marine, NRC, to actual offshore work, just working strictly for the oil company.
Yep.
And, of course, I had enough sea time. I wanted to go get my captain's license. So I went and got my captain's license. And I want to say it was 2003. I got my 100-ton, 150-ton, and 200-ton mate. And then I was just running supply vessels since then.
Nice.
But offshore industry, of course, depends on what's going on in the economy.
Yep.
Sometimes things switch hands and the economy takes a shit, and well, your pay gets cut and the jobs get cut. So finally in 2014, it got so bad to where I was trying to go to the grocery store for the vessel. Like, because it's me plus 6 other guys on this vessel. Like, we need to eat, right?
Right.
So I get to the grocery store to go grocery shopping for the vessel, and they were like, you can't shop here because the company you work for has a $300 and something thousand bill that they haven't paid. I'm like, well, my guys need to eat.
Right.
Figure out a way to get some fucking groceries to the boat.
Oh, man, that's bad.
So I called the office, and they give me a credit card number, and that credit card bounces.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And then they give me another credit card, and that credit card has like $24 on it. So I literally called them back, and I was like, hey, look, if y'all can't afford to put groceries on the vessel, how are you going to pay me next pay period?
Right?
And she couldn't answer that question, so I was like, I'm going back to the vessel and I'm packing my shit and I'm leaving. I'm sorry, but if you can't
Right.
feed me while I'm at work, you're not going to be able to pay me.
Right.
And
Oh my God.
that was my last day of work offshore, and I was running this big, beautiful, fucking 205-foot vessel.
Wow.
And like, how do you even own something like this? State of the art vessel,
Right.
5 feet, 80. I want to say it was like 48 feet wide. It was a huge, big vessel. Like, it had
Yeah.
TV and everything. It's like, how do you even own this if you can't afford to feed the people on it that are running it?
That's nuts.
So of course I went back to the vessel and I got my stuff packed up and I left,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't been back since.
Okay.
But prior to that, 2012, somewhere in there, I started making knives again. I think I was 27 or 28 years old. I started making fixed blades somewhere
Mhm.
around 2011, 2010, 2011, I want to say.
Okay.
I started making fixed blades, and a friend of mine wanted me to do a folder project, and I got on Instagram and just kind of blew up from there.
Yes, you have.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not as famous as some of these other makers, but my work.
No, but you've got a great name and you've worked with some great people, and it's nice to have some lineage in your family to bring down and stuff like that. So some of that is just cool.
Yeah, your work speaks for itself.
And
Absolutely. I
it's
mean,
so much better now than it was. Like, I want to say the knife that you have, Alex, is from 2016, 2017, and
That's what the guy told me. I think he said 2017.
yeah,
mm,
somewhere there. And my work has definitely gotten better since then.
we would hope so.
Oh
I
yeah,
think,
of course,
again, like we were talking before we went live, we hope to just be better tomorrow than we were today.
of
And
course.
that's not just in as a human being, but in our chosen professions, we like to do our jobs better tomorrow than we did it last week. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
even in
Now,
talking with Todd Senior, right? He has
Yes.
started making battles recently, and I got the prototype that he made, and I love it. It's awesome. Um, and then I got to see the fourth one that he made. Well, the fourth one is way better than the prototype one in just a span of several months.
Yeah. Well,
So
a new design is always going to give you problems.
absolutely, and not to say that don't start making comments. Nothing to say there's anything wrong with the prototype, but the fourth one just was much better. And I'm a huge battle fan. I recently got the King Battle from a buddy, 4.25 inch, and just I can't get it out of my pockets. Like I haven't carried anything since I got this several weeks ago. Um, so yeah, I'm a big Fisher fan. I've got stuff from Frank, Todd, and uh, TJ.
oh,
So
and you just had a Carter and Fisher collaboration
I
too,
just
didn't you?
had the Talon, which was what kind of prompted me to reach out to Robert and see
Yeah.
if he'd want to come on the show and all of that, because my buddy Anthony bought a Talon collab you did with Frank some time ago, and it was great.
And I want to say that is definitely a version 1 of the Talon.
Uh-huh.
And since then, there's been quite a few iterations and changes to the Talon.
I
Yeah.
have always thought the Battle was the coolest knife design also, Stasa. That's why I've ended up now with 6 of them. I can't believe I just
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
it's definitely a nice design, and it's a cool ass knife to begin with. But
It's a cool knife, and the Talon that I had was super snappy. I loved, and I talked about it in my video of around the perimeters. Typically, you're going to see them polished. That one was anodized black, but then anodized blue around the perimeters, which I
so
just thought was crazy cool.
so that knife actually came in for a spa treatment right after I had my accident,
Okay.
and like I had really bad nerve damage, and I still have bad nerve damage. Like You probably can't
Mm.
see it now, but my hands shake like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, like I still had a bag, like a tube and a bag, a drain bag hanging out.
Oh,
Whenever that knife came in,
yep.
like whoever owned it at the time wanted something weird, and I was like, look, here's what I can do. I can't do what you want, but I can go around the perimeter because it was scratched up real bad. I can go around
Yep.
the perimeter and get it to like 1200 grit or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can anodize it. And he was like, perfect. That'll be perfect. Well, as soon as he got it back, he sold it.
Yeah, isn't that how it
Uh,
normally works? But
And
I think the blue on that was just, you don't normally see that. And so that's what really kind of stuck out to me as super cool. And the action on that thing was super snappy. Oh man, it was great.
yeah, I know
it's those kind of customers that ruin it for guys like me, too, because every time, like, I
Hmm.
keep knives for a really long time, like a really long time. And every time I gotta go and, ask a maker, hey, can you like fix this like 4-year-old knife where I like scuff the shit out of it and whatever. A lot of times it's tough to ask certain ones if you don't know them real well because they think that all you're gonna do is just get the knife polished up and then sell it.
yeah, and I don't mind doing spa work at all.
Hmm.
I know most people or most collectors or whatever, they get a knife in. Hey, I need to send it back to the maker to get spa work done. I know as soon as they get it back, they're gonna sell it. I don't really care. Like I've already made my money on the knife.
Right.
Like I don't care if they're gonna sell it or whatever. But on the other hand, don't send me a knife and then be like, I shouldn't have to pay for spa work.
Mhm.
Right.
No, hey, look, if I'm working on your shit, you're gonna pay me.
Yep.
And that is that simple. I don't give a
Yep.
damn if it's 20 minutes worth of work or 6 hours worth of work or whatever it is. I still have to charge you for those hours. And
Absolutely.
a lot
Everybody
of
should
guys,
understand that and
yeah, a lot
accept
of guys
that
have,
now.
yeah, a lot of guys have no problem. But then again, some guys have a huge problem with it. And I'm like, well, look, if I get out of bed and I'm working for you, that means
Yep.
you owe me money. I don't
Well,
give.
and I have no problem paying people. It's
Nope.
just sometimes people flat out don't even want to work on like spas and stuff. And it's understandable. I get it for some people, but yeah, like in the situation with the F-16 I have, that one you rescued me on that one because that one was really beat up. Like even the bolsters, everything were like chipped. And it's kind of cool because when I got the knife back, you did so much work to it, it like thinned it out a lot, like compared to
Mm.
what it was. It used to be actually like quite a bit thicker before. So, but
That
yeah,
guy,
this knife is great.
that guy put it in the wash machine or accidentally washed it.
Oh, is
Yep.
that what happened?
Yep.
Interesting.
And Will Carey says one of his favorite Carter knives is the F-16 that you made for Jim Skelton.
Oh yeah.
Will calls it a zebra pattern. He thinks Jim called it black and white. He missed the opportunity to buy it off of Jim by like 30 seconds.
Yeah, and it's also so that blade that looks like the zebra pattern, that is a tight ladder pattern San Ma. The original,
Okay.
yeah, the original customer wanted he wanted the blade dark. I didn't like it. I tried to talk him out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
of course, it came back in several years later, and for spa, and I deep etched it and then polished it, and it looks fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say the Timascus was zipper pattern,
Mm.
but it didn't look all that great at first. Whenever it was just dark etched, but whenever I re-etched it and cleaned it all up and re-etched it, deep
Yeah.
then buffed it, the blade looks so much fucking better.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. Meddling. This is our friend Aussie Mike. He's a collector down in Australia. He loves the Frank Fisher collab Warbird.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a Warbird now with thumb studs.
Nice. I
Yeah,
like thumb studs.
yeah. So that blade in the closed position is because I didn't design the blade. I designed the handle. I didn't really design the blade,
Mm-hmm.
but I did send a very similar blade, and then of course Frank made his changes to it.
Yep.
So the point on the blade where it swoops up and then goes down to the point is not concentric with the curve in the handle.
Mm-hmm.
So putting a thumb stud on that blade is just a nightmare. Like you have to split the difference between the arc, which he changed, and it looks great, but the arc on the front of the handle is not concentric with the arc
On the blade.
in the finger choil or
Oh,
the arc in the tip of the point that goes up on the blade. None of that is concentric. So there's
right.
no place to put a fucking thumb stud.
Ah,
Like I should have looked at it a little bit closer, but that blade and that knife was never meant to have a thumb stud. So
right.
I didn't look at it at the time. It looked really good, and I'm like, man, this looks really good. Like we're gonna run with this. And Frank was like, let's fucking do it, big boy. I'm like, all right, let's run with it. So we ran with it, and we never really looked at being concentric with all of the arcs to put
Right.
placement for a thumb stud to where it would look perfect. Well, now I'm having to figure all that out, and I'm thinking I might have to redesign the knife.
And Aussie Mike says, is there already a buyer for that? Because he probably wants to buy it now.
Yes, there is a buyer for it, but I can always make you another one.
There you go, Mike.
These
And
hands,
because Mike is in Australia, everything he buys here in the United States, he ships to me, and then I ship down to him after that. So that would be cool if Mike buys one, because then I get to check it out.
absolutely. But
Just
yeah,
say it, Mike. Not trying to help you spend your money, but I gotta do what I gotta do.
but no, I can always make somebody something. Like I love to work, and I don't want to run out of work for sure. So if somebody wants something, just let me know.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like, so your books are open, if you will. People can reach out to you on
Of course.
Instagram. Is that the best way to find you?
Facebook Messenger, Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah,
And he's got a whole Facebook group. So you guys, if you're not in the Facebook group already, you should be.
yeah. So my books aren't really kind of like open, but
Yeah.
if somebody pushes me to make them something, I'll make them something. But here, the last 6 months or so, things have been just so off with like the weather, getting in a car wreck, and like
Mhm.
it's just been a wild 6 months. And I'm just trying. Here in the last couple of days, I've been able to kind of get everything back going like it should be. But also, I got this weather system coming through, so the power's been out, and
Right.
it's just everything has been just terrible. The last 6 months has just been so erratic. But
Mhm.
like my personal life and work life and all that good stuff, like I've got all that situated and under control. But the
Okay.
weather and the power outages and everything that's been going on in the last 6 months has just been wild. It has been wild. So,
Yeah, life has taken some twists and turns for a lot of people here, and
God.
yeah, like Chef Rocky here says, your health is the most important. It really is.
And I have been sick. So I got the first week of December, I got the flu. I went to the emergency room. They tell me I got flu A. I was like, all right, well, that's no problem. They give me some meds. Everything's cool. A couple of days go by, I start getting worse, and I get worse
Oh,
and worse. So I go back to the emergency room, and I'm like, man, I'm getting
right.
worse. What's going on? They test me out, and they get me to do all these tests and stuff, and like just fix me, like give me some meds, like give me something.
Yeah,
And then they tell me I got bronchitis, that my flu is turned into bronchitis.
turned into bronchitis. Yeah.
So I can't sleep. Like every time I fall asleep and I start coughing, I'm coughing up all this phlegm out of my chest and all this weird shit's going on. So another week goes by and I'm just not getting any better. So I go back to the urgent care, and then they tell me, I don't know who the fuck told you that you have bronchitis, but you have pneumonia.
Pneumonia.
Yeah, you got pneumonia. Like I'm still on all kinds of steroids. And,
Oh God, yeah. The pneumonia hangs on for a while. It just lingers.
So I can't even shower without like coughing up a bunch of stuff, because the shower opens your lungs up.
Oh yeah.
You're breathing in that moisture, and it kind of moisturizes your lungs. And let me tell you, like every morning I wake up, I'm still coughing and hacking up all kinds of stuff out of my chest. I don't know if you can hear it right now, but I can tell my voice does not sound as it should right now.
Right. Yeah, it's a little scratchy, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm still dealing with it, and I'm getting short of breath. Like just putting my shoes on there for a while was a problem. I'd get
Yeah.
breath putting pants on. Like I
Yeah.
was sick, and here in the last couple of days, I've been able to breathe. I've been on the breathing treatment thing that they gave me. I'm able to breathe, but like if I start surface grinding or grinding blades or something, if I don't have my mask on, it really puts me in the dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it tough when you physically are unable to go and work and make knives. That's a crappy place to be in.
It has been the last 2 or 3 weeks has been pretty nasty. Like I've been able to walk around and just kind of look at things, but
Yeah.
been able to grind or do anything physically strenuous.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting better. I am getting better. Like I'm death proof. You can't kill me.
Right.
But I'm getting a lot better. It just has not been fun the last 3 weeks. I've been sick. Everyone here has been sick. Girlfriend's kids have been sick. My kids have been sick. She's been sick. And, it's been a wild ride the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Hey, sharing is caring. So you guys just sharing that diseases all around the family. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It all started out. My son came home and he was coughing. I was like, "Hey, you all right?" He's like, "Oh yeah, just coughing a little bit." Yeah, everyone that we know got sick. Like,
Yep.
and it was not good.
Yeah, kid germs are like super potent.
Yeah.
Super potent.
Yeah, my parents got sick, and my mom is still sick. My mom is still real bad sick. She literally, she went Friday back to the emergency room or urgent care, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Went Friday back, and they put her on like some super high dose antibiotics and steroids and stuff. Gave her a shot. She's feeling better, but you can tell she's still sick.
Yeah.
And she's had this whatever we have or whatever we had. She's had it since before December, so she's not doing good.
No, that's tough.
This guy says that sounds like a warm Canadian winter.
Well,
oh yeah, I know it
Oh.
happened to us too at the house. Dirk knows like about a month ago. Like my daughter brought something home that nearly killed me for a week, nearly killed my wife, then started spreading through work, and yeah, there's some weird bugs going around lately, but hopefully you feel better.
I feel much better today than I did yesterday or the day before. I am definitely getting better, and I'm just hoping that I continue to get better because I've been getting easily winded, and which is not good for me because I'm used to rolling for, in jiu-jitsu class, rolling for 30, 45 minutes straight without being winded, sweating a little bit, but not winded.
Right.
Now I can't put my shoes on without getting winded.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely been one of those things that I had to adjust, and I'm getting better, but it hasn't been fun.
No, it's not. And you speak about, jujitsu and training and stuff. So you're doing, I think we talked about this before we kind of went live. You've been doing MMA, jujitsu, and some other stuff here for several years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it keeps me young, man. I'm almost 40, so I got to stay young somehow.
Yeah. Once you hit 40, it's all downhill, man.
That's what they keep saying, but I feel pretty good besides being sick here the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think if you start out good when you hit 40, then you're all right. And then you'll kind of make it through the 40s. But then when you hit 50, then it might, change. You're just prolonging the inevitable.
Of course.
At some point, your knees and everything are going to start creaking and you're going to get out of bed and, pop, crack, snap, crackle, pop. And then you can get out of bed and take a shower.
Well, I don't have any of that yet. So I guess I'm doing better than most.
You're doing better than most at this point, for sure. Deadpool Lee says he still has bronchitis and working 11 hours in minus 20?
Oh, my goodness.
Minus 20 degree weather. Did you typo that? Where the hell are you working?
His name is Deadpool, so he heals pretty fast.
At minus 20, F that. Like, literally, I'm not working. If it's minus 20, I don't think I'm getting out of my bed with my electric blankets on.
Oh my goodness.
I can't imagine minus 20.
I feel
can't
bad for
imagine it.
Deadpool Lee. I definitely do not envy you.
Damn.
So Robert, you've had a couple production knives too, right?
Yes, and the latest one to come out, and there's still several that are going to come out, but they have been postponed. The latest one is the Ox Cart.
This card.
Okay.
Tell me more.
Yeah, the Ox Cart by Columbia River Knife and Tool. It is on bearings and also an assisted opener, and it's actually a really nice knife. It's a really nice everyday carry knife. It's not too big, not too small, but still enough blade to get through any kind of tough jobs it needs to, but also thin enough to still be able to cut.
And you did one with Ontario knives too, I remember a little while back. That was
Yeah,
a pretty cool knife too.
They had the squared and
Yeah, that's the one. The squared.
yeah,
That's the one I remember.
prime. So that was my warfighter model and the generalist model, and they did an excellent job on the generalist model and the warfighter model actually, but there was some issues with the blade hitting the backspacer or something in the squared model, and I tried to tell them how to fix it, but I'm pretty sure Ontario. Well, I'll just say they fixed it and everything's good, but they're not reordering any inventory at the moment. I'll just say that.
Mm.
Okay.
But
That
no,
was a cool knife though. I did like
they did
that.
a fantastic job on both of them. But I think the company's about to go a different direction, so they're not ordering any more folder inventory. Like
I
they have.
started worried about them when they did a Space Force K bar. I mean, that already right there is like
Well, there's a few things that they did that
Mm.
was wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're not ordering any more folder inventory for quite some time. They're going more local to their Rochester factory for their fixed blades and stuff, which is made right here in the United States and uses all U.S. material, which I'm pretty fucking happy about. But also, all their overseas stuff, they probably will not be doing that anymore, and they will not. They probably will not be re-upping their folder division.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot going
interesting.
on Ontario that I can't tell you about.
There was I still have it somewhere. It's the Ontario Black, was it the Blackbird? I think was what it was called. They did some really nice fixed blade. There's this one I have. It's made of like 154 cm
Mm-hmm.
with like a typical Gryvery handle, but had like that Kephart design, and
Yeah,
just a really handy knife.
yeah, they do great work, and they use premium blade steels, and there's a lot of great things about the company, except for like they don't advertise at all.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
that's a problem.
Yeah, they don't advertise at all, but they do make a great knife. So you literally have to stumble on them in order to buy something.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, Ontario is a great company to work for and a great company that produces great products, but you literally have to stumble upon them to know who they are.
Right.
So that was a big issue. And of course, there's some other issues, but I won't go into that. That's kind of their personal business. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they're still going to be making fixed blades out of Rochester or whatever the fuck name of the city. I want to say it's Rochester, New York.
Okay.
Mhm.
But they have a production facility there. They're still going to be making fixed blades there.
Very cool.
Got it.
They make a great fixed blade. So
Yep.
So we were complaining about minus 20.
oh my,
Todd Carr says that he was talking to somebody up in Alberta working in the oil fields that hit minus 45 Celsius,
ooh.
which I'd have to look up. I can't do the conversion in my head, but Yeah, instant ultim when you pee kind of temps. Yeah, dude, that's nuts. Like I can't compute that.
And here I am in shorts.
Yeah, dude, I can't compute. I just don't understand that sort of temperatures. Oh,
Well,
and Todd says that's minus 50 Fahrenheit.
oh,
Wow.
I want to say,
Dude.
whenever I lived in Norway, I lived in Norway for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, or
Oh
maybe
wow.
4 months, and I was there with Glenn or Hoven, and of course
Yeah.
somebody else, but I was there with
Yep.
Glenn Knives, and the coldest it got was, I want to say, 17 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, and it really wasn't that bad. But whenever it would get humid, even like at 10 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, whenever it would get humid there, it was really bad.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but as long as the humidity was down, it really didn't feel that bad.
Hmm.
Humidity and wind.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
wind.
humidity and wind for sure. Like Pretty Fly for a Knife guy says, "Hey man, um, was saying the wind chill was minus 58 up in North
Ooh,
Dakota
oh,
yesterday."
Jesus.
And I know
Yeah,
that I
they're
had
coming
some
out with
friends
some
who,
crazy ass numbers. It's like minus 100 degrees Celsius and shit.
Yeah,
yeah, dude, it's the wind will just kill you for
oh,
sure.
I'm
That's
sorry.
Yeah.
all bad news.
I'm sorry, Pretty Fly for a Knife guy. I am sorry that you're having to deal with that.
Dude, I can't imagine that. That's literally where people die outside.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you get like if your car breaks down and you're stuck on the side of like you're dying in those types of temperatures. Like that's just really bad. Even Blessed Knife says it was minus 45 with the wind chill last night where he lives.
Jesus
It
Christ.
was plus 40 this morning here where I was in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's about 40. Well, I don't know. What is it here? The computer says it's 54 degrees outside right now. It's been in the 50s here this last couple of
Well,
days.
you're in California.
I'm in Northern California and Alex is in Southern California.
How cold is it in Southern California?
About 40.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure it's freezing. It's like 30 degrees outside right now here. And it's supposed to get down to 20 tonight. Or
That's
something
crazy.
like our low for in the morning is 20 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
It's odd for California to be down that low, you know? Usually like we have pretty mild winters, like we're in the 60s or 58, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's been, you know, I don't know, global warming, I guess.
Yeah. So Aussie Mike's emailed me a picture of some Damascus thing he wanted me to share here. So this is I don't remember what he said. It was a comment.
It's a Reich knife.
A Reich knife something with a kind of a crazy Damascus pattern.
Yeah, it looks like Damasteel, actually.
Yep,
Could
it
be.
does.
Yeah, he literally just sent me just a picture, so I don't have any other information on it. But
So there's a lot of people that probably would love to know the difference between Damasteel and Damascus. Would you want to explain that?
that's a great question.
Damasteel is the same thing as Damascus. They just have a patent on the name for it because everything is done inside of their forge, to where it's like a zero vacuum forge. So it's a process and their own product. So it's called Damasteel. So it's RWL 34 and whatever other steel. I'm not real familiar with it because it's not an American product, so I don't use it.
Right.
I'm pretty dead set on, if it's an American product, I'll use it. But
Yep.
of course, steel is from wherever the fuck it's from, Sweden or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great product. Don't get me wrong, but I don't use it because it's from not the United States.
Yep. That's fair.
And
so
also,
that picture I showed was the Reich SO5 in Mosaic Damascus from
Mosaic.
From what my buddy Rob tells me, and Rob is a pretty smart guy. He had a Hellraiser problem from Red Horse Knife Works.
Oh,
and
shit.
then I adopted his Hellraiser problem. So now I have a Hellraiser problem and a Frank Fisher battle problem.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
It's a problem. But John Duncan says that my Robert Carter custom is one of the pinnacles of my collection. I love it. Rob Maskus and Sanmai. It's one of my most treasured. What model is that, John?
I don't know what he's got, but I do.
You had a,
You?
you had another collector in your group that for years I used to talk to once in a while to Bepe Massa.
Yes, I want.
Dude, that guy.
I've been wondering what the fuck happened to him.
I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah,
But he used to be a super heavy collector of your stuff
yeah.
and the good ones too. He had the really good
Mhm.
stuff.
He did, but something happened during the pandemic, and something happened with his job. That I think I can remember something. He told me something happened with his job. He had to move or something, and he
Because
literally
he
just
was in Hong Kong, if I remember
yeah,
right.
and he disappeared.
Oh,
Me and him were really good friends, and yeah, I've reached out to him and messaged him, and also another guy is Was Not Was on Instagram. I've reached out to both of these guys recently, and I haven't received anything back from them, and it kind of concerns me. Did something happen to them? Did they catch COVID and fucking croak? Did they?
right. Yeah, that's part of the problem with having online friends, right?
And I
And
reached out recently to both of those guys. Was Not Was
Mhm.
Warren and Beppy. I've reached out to both of those guys recently, and no response whatsoever. So I hope
Interesting.
them and their families are doing fucking fantastic, and I hope that they're just taking a break from social media or whatever it is.
right.
I hope they're doing good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Professor EDC asks Alex a question. So, Alex, what's your problem? Dirk's already stated his. Mine's the battles. Well, really, mine is the Fishers altogether because I have stuff from all three of them, and I love them all.
I
And
don't
then
have
there's
a problem.
Hellraisers.
I
I
just
have
like
a Hellraiser
knives.
problem.
I don't
You
see
went?
buying lots of knives as a problem, so I don't have a problem. I just have a fucking cabinet of knives here and guns there, and sorry.
Yeah,
Zen X. Hi.
my
Hi,
problem.
all. Cool seeing people in the community I've only seen videos from. Well, thanks for joining. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't really do a lot of public anything. So
Yeah, this is kind of a first for Robert to begin with. So I'm honored that he, agreed to
Yeah, I'm
come
honored
on.
too,
And,
man.
that's
Very honored because I'm
great.
a big fan.
Yeah,
yeah,
I've been a fan for a long time. And for those of you that are just joining or whatnot, just about a week ago, I did a video on a collaboration that Robert did with Frank Fisher, a Talon that my buddy Anthony bought, had shipped to me so I could film it. And then it's already shipped off to him and he loves it. So based on that, I've been talking to Robert already, asked him if he wanted to come on, and here we are. So just in case you didn't know how that all happened.
yeah, I don't really do a lot of public anything these days. Like I try to stick to myself the best I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, understood nowadays, man. It's world's a bit of a different place, and
Yeah,
people are just a little bit less receptive, that I guess is the word I could use, than they used to be. So it's
yeah,
like you just don't know people's motivation and things anymore sometimes. So I don't know. That's kind of like how I've been. I just been noticing people are just not looking out anymore. They're really like a lot of more self-centered out there, which is weird.
yeah. Well, I don't have any friends,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just here by myself. Most of it. Well, I mean, I have a girlfriend and her kids here, but as
Yeah.
far as me hanging out with people, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't.
See, Blessed Knives says, yeah, that's the way to live. Hashtag recluse life.
Yes, you're not wrong.
Get it? Like I work from home, so I never really leave the house. Like this is my home office where I do my normal day job and I do my YouTube stuff and I pay my bills and all that stuff just happens here. And then I've got my bedroom and the kitchen, all that. So I never have to really leave except to go to the store here and there.
Yeah,
I got to deal with assholes every day, so you guys are lucky.
yeah. No, it's. Uh, I don't have to deal with anyone, and like I said, I could literally pay someone to go grocery shopping for me, and I don't have to leave the shop or the house, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the way I prefer it because, uh,
Yep.
well, I mean, people suck.
They do. So here's a question from Will Carey, who's actually a friend of mine that lives an hour-ish away. What's Rob's idea of a non-dresser user in his knives? Or what direction would he go for a daily carry knife? which is a good question. We didn't ask you, what knife do you carry? Do you carry one of your own knives? Do you carry a Benchmade, a Spyderco? Like, what do you normally carry? And then what in your lineup would you consider as like a daily user?
All right, so I have a knife that my grandfather made me back in 2020. I carry it every day.
Awesome.
It is G10 handles. It's a liner lock. G10 handles.
Okay.
The G10 is jigged, and it is a S30V blade. Just a satin blade,
Yeah.
plain, thumb stud, but it's also an assisted opener.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and my grandfather made that, and he made it for a show, actually. And here's the funny thing. He couldn't get this knife centered because the blade was warped. And I tried to explain it to him, like, the fucking blade's warped. And he's like, well, I can't get the piece of shit centered. Here, you could have this piece of shit. What? He's like, yeah, so you can have this motherfucker. You know, like, I don't know if either one of y'all have ever met my grandfather, but he's a very in the moment type of man.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I brought this, but I can't get this damn blade centered. You can have this piece of shit.
Right.
He was mad about it because everything on the table was just flying off the table, but he couldn't put this knife on the table because it was off center.
Because off center. Okay.
So he's like, I can't stand this fucking knife. You can have this piece of shit. So he gave it to him. And this is 2001 or 2002. And he gave me that knife, and I've had it ever since. And I've carried
awesome.
it almost every day ever since then.
Is he still making knives?
Well, he's dead now.
Oh, he passed. He passed.
But I have the last two knives that he made, and of course, plenty of other knives that he made. But yeah, I have the last two knives that he made, and of course, he made me that, or he didn't make that for me. He made it and couldn't get it to work right, so he gave it to me.
Right.
And I've had that knife ever since.
That's awesome. And for those of you joining late, his grandfather is Mel Pardue. So just that. So it's not
cool.
just like my grandfather made me some knife in the garage, right? So there's that's a legit thing there. So just want to
great Mel Pardue.
The great Mel Pardue. So Bangkok Mark, Thailand is in the house. Welcome. Lord Needham had a question here. He goes, I remember listening to or reading something about using a more durable steel and a less durable steel in Damascus, kind of using one of each to achieve better cutting performance.
I think he's talking about soft outer layer jacket with like a harder steel for a cutting edge.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so if you use like 1095 and nickel for Damascus, which is going to look really good, nickel always really good contrast to 1094 or whatever it might be. But if you use a contrasting steel or alloy that doesn't harden, issues like 304 doesn't harden. Nickel doesn't harden, but say like if you use 1094 and 15N20, both of those steels will harden, but 15N20 isn't going to like really outperform or isn't going to perform to the level that you want it to. That'll perform better, but in stainless, you have 304 or the 400 series or the 300 series, 300 series not being metallic or hardenable. Your 400 series, 416, 420, 440, 440V, which is your S90V equivalent.
Okay.
Those are going to be more durable and more user friendly than your lower number 400 series or your 300 series, which is non-magnetic and non-hardenable to begin with, or nickel, which is neither as well.
Got it. Okay.
But my Damascus that I make is a performance Damascus. I usually make it out of CPM 154 and D2, or I make it out of CPM 154 and AEBO. So your CPM 154 is a high chromium steel, of course. So whenever you etch it in muriatic acid, it doesn't etch. D2 on the other hand, or 3V, or AEBL will etch in muriatic acid, but it will not affect your high chromium steels because they have a higher percentage chromium. They also have a higher percentage molybdenum. So, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm a redneck, so you have to.
Right. Yeah.
But the muriatic acid will not affect them. So you can dip it in muriatic acid. Your D2 and your 3V and your AEBL will turn dark. It'll turn black,
Mhm.
which gives you your contrast between your
Right.
chromium steels. So that's what I use in most of my Damascus is D2 CPM 154, which is what I've switched to now, which, oh my God, it's such a pain in the ass to fucking forge because those are hard steels. Like those are hard.
Right. Yeah, they're hard by themselves.
But the 54, the CPM 154 and AEBL mix is a better mix for me. It's easier to forge, it's easier to grind, it's easier to clean up, and
Okay.
it just looks better.
Hmm.
However, CPM 154 and regular D2 is a better performance steel.
Ah.
Like D2 is always going to outperform AEBL. Like you can take D2 and just chop into AEBL blade and
Yep.
have any problem on the D2. Like it's that good a steel.
Hmm.
And D2 is
It's funny to me because, you know, and I love it because a lot of people are so focused on like the super steels, the M390s and all that other stuff. And you hear a professional knife maker talk about S30V and D2 and 154 CM, which are all steels I've always loved,
Yep.
yeah,
you
they're all
know.
great in their own
And
application.
but it's funny to me because a lot of people scoff at that stuff, and now you can hear it like firsthand from the professional that these are good steels. You don't have to have M390 or, all these crazy ridiculous steels to have a good performing knife.
And here's the thing. So every one of those steels might be top notch in their field of application. That's why they get such a hype thing going on. They might be awesome in their application. Like D2 is a tap. It's a die steel, so you
Hmm.
punch out patterns with D2, and it does great at that. But it also is a very fine carbide, not quite like a spray, but it's also a very fine, like it's a refined carbide distribution amongst the steel.
Hmm.
That's why D2 has always been right there with everyone else's steels. Like D2 is always going to be a great steel.
For sure.
CPM 154 is also a very refined, fine grained carbide distribution across the blade or across the steel molecular structure. Those are always going to be your top steels. M390 is the same way. Your Sandvik steels are going to be the same way because Sandvik is even finer dispersed carbides across the field of application. So, like your razor blades, which are
Right.
or surgical steel, which is mostly Sandvik,
Hmm.
or Bowler or whatever the fuck, like whoever Carpenter, like
Right.
those. Um, I don't know, foundries or whatever you want to call them, like they have their processes down to where their carbides are just more evenly across their application fields. If you know what I'm saying. So like if you have this much blade steel,
Right.
like have one carbide here, one carbide there, and then down here you might have another carbide.
Hmm.
Imagine they come up with these processes to evenly distribute those carbides like all the way across evenly, and that's where you get a better blade steel.
Right.
So I wish I had a piece of paper with me I can show you, but it's literally like you draw like a like Halloween teeth,
Yep.
and that's where
Yeah,
like
it's like almost like micro serrations, right?
yeah, so that's
Hmm.
where your little carbides come in. They're the teeth on the blade.
Yep.
Well, those teeth wear out individually.
Right.
And that's where you get like your rollovers and your chips and whatever. But the tighter those teeth are, the better the edge is going to be held.
Yep.
Yeah, more strength.
Yeah, and more strength, more durability. Less um, chance of being chipped, whatever. So it's the process in which those carbides are distributed, like your chromium, vanadium, molybdenum, and actual carbon.
Hmm.
Like everything is distributed more evenly across the application, so better blade steel, and that's literally just how it is.
Yep. So Aussie Mike asks, what's your take on Magna Cut?
I like Magna Cut. It's a pain in the ass, but it's not that bad actually. It's a little bit more uh, wear resistant than I would like because, well, not wear resistant, but strength. Your strength, like it'll cut all day. Don't get me.
Yes.
It's a great steel, but at the same Rockwell as say like D2 or CPM 154 or even S90, same
Hmm.
Rockwell, Magna Cut it'll break.
Right.
So it's a little more brittle.
Yeah, it's a little bit more brittle
A
than
little more brittle. Yeah.
but as long as you're not prying with it, it's a great steel. So like I'd highly recommend Magna Cut. If it's just something you're just going to be cutting with, box
Yep.
tape, whatever in the fuck, rope, it cuts rope great.
Yeah. I have one Magna Cut knife, my RJ Martin Q36 SS, and I didn't buy it because it was Magna Cut. I got it just because I love the knife. Happens to be Magna Cut, and it's been phenomenal. I use this to do a lot of cardboard breaking down and things like
Yeah,
that. It's been amazing so far for that.
and it should hold an edge for a long time as
It
well.
seems to have, yes, so far. And then John, who commented earlier about one of your knives was his favorite knife. It's a P40.
Thank you, Joe or John. I can't.
John.
It's super. Yeah, John Duncan. Thank you.
Yeah, no, very cool. And then, and a lot of people have chimed in the comments about 154. They love it and all these things, which is great.
Yeah, I'd
And
love
then,
154 CPM
yep,
154 is a great steel.
yeah. And then Zen X kind of has a question, and some of the people are kind of chiming in already, but I guess, we'll give our points. What are you guys' comfort level price wise for a heavy user? Okay, so my first rebuttal question is, what do we call heavy use? Number one. And then number two, for me, I don't know. I carry everything at every price range. And if I'm carrying the King Battle, which is a 5-figure knife, we're not gonna lie,
Yeah,
and I need to cut something with it, I'm just gonna cut. And this thing is so crazy sharp, it cuts amazing. So I'm gonna use whatever I have in my pocket. And I know that once I've bought a knife, even at that price range, if I'm gonna carry it, I'm just gonna use it.
absolutely. It's yours to use, so might as well use it.
Yep.
I'm gonna
And
use
now,
my knives as well, but I'm not gonna abuse. Like I know what a knife is useful for and
correct.
what it's capable for. So like I'm not depending on what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab the appropriate knife, usually for the job. But I'm not
Yes.
scared of using any of my knives either. All my custom stuff have some sort of carry mark or something
Yep.
from, you know.
Now,
And
granted, I'm not going out camping for the weekend, and this be the knife I'm going to take. I mean, you gotta pick the right tool for the right
yeah,
job.
absolutely. And I was just about to say, if it's going to be a hard use or heavy job, just bring a fixed blade.
Bring a fixed blade. Yep.
Bring a fixed blade in D2 or 5120 or 52 100 or whatever the fuck it is. Just bring a fixed blade in the steel that you really need it to be in
Mm-hmm.
for a heavy use job. And
Yep. And speaking of fixed blades, Bangkok Mike says, what's the thoughts on DC 53 for a fixed blade heavy user? I'm not even familiar with that steel.
I'm not familiar with that steel.
I think that's Damas steel, if I remember right. I think that's their nomenclature
So
for that.
I'm
we
not.
have no thoughts because we've never heard of it, Mike.
Yeah, DC 53 is not something I'm familiar with. But I would say, like, if you're gonna if you were to build a Performance 2 steel Sanma, what are you choosing? Stainless, carbon? If I had to choose, I would say I would do a sand mile with a 3V core.
Mm.
If it was Damascus. Now, if I'm just choosing a steel to be hard use, I would still choose 3V.
Yeah.
3V's good.
You can't go wrong with 3V. It's relatively easy to sharpen, and you can literally chop through concrete with it, and
Yep.
it'll still hold an edge, which is kind of crazy. But if it's heat treated right, 3V will hold an edge after you get done like chopping concrete. And I've seen all the tests and everything with it. Like 3V is up there. I would highly recommend 3V for a hard use steel. But if if you're gonna just chop some limbs or whatever, anything will do. But if you're chopping concrete and chopping like roots in the dirt and shit, 3V would probably be your best bet.
Yeah. And then Zen X kind of followed up and said, by heavy use, he means willing to mark up the blade. Yeah. So that's for me. I don't buy safe queens. There are some knives that I own that I don't carry because my Phil Harvey Peacemaker is 2.5 pounds, and so I don't carry that often, obviously.
And
But I have used it to chop some wood here at the house. I've done some videos with it and stuff. So it actually needs to go back to Phil for some work because it's just kind of beat up.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of people have no idea what the difference is between a hard use and performance.
Right.
So people see like, oh, it's got a 1/4-inch blade on it. It's gonna just maul through whatever. Yeah, it'll maul through whatever, but it might take you a while to maul through some shit.
Right.
So-
Stasa 23 says that DC 53 is supposed to be a D2 on steroids. Okay.
Well, if it's that great, then it should be a lot more popular.
Maybe it's that. I think it's that stuff that Strider was using for a while.
Let's see here what Bangkok Mike says. It's DC 53 high hardness, 62 to 64 Rockwell, then D2 after heat treat. Twice the toughness of D2 with superior wear resistance, substantially higher fatigue strength compared to D2 similar. So it's like a D2 on steroids, like Stasa said. Okay.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I mean, if it's that great,
it would be
surprised nobody knew about it here.
Exactly.
Except for Stasa. But Stasa, he's a little funny. He got a lot of time on his hands to
I totally
research that stuff.
And I've spoke with him a few times. He's not that funny.
Stasa's a good guy. I give him some
normal good guy.
Some jabs here, but Stasa's a good guy.
Yeah.
But no, if it was that good, then it would be a lot more popular amongst knife makers. So there's some situation or problem, underlying problem with that steel that we're not hearing about or learning about.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment. So, but I would say 3V is probably going to be your best bet for hard use.
Yep.
3V is a really good steel, and you can literally chop through concrete with it, and it will still cut. But also, back to what I was saying, a lot of people think a hard use knife is something thick and beefy, and if you try to cut a fucking straw with it, you can't even cut through a straw, even though it's got a fresh edge, which the micro bevel on the edge might be at an 1/8 inch, but that's not a hard use knife. That's a hype. You're getting what you're looking at kind of knife.
Right.
I can take a 5/30 seconds blade and outperform it all day, or even a 3/16 blade would outperform it all day. The right geometry on the grinds and bevels and the edge will outperform all those hype hard use knives all fucking day. I don't care if you're going through concrete or whatever. Like if you're going through concrete with shit, like get a damn jackhammer.
Yeah, we got to, again, it always goes back to pick the right tool for the right job.
Exactly.
If you want to chop down a tree, don't use a folding knife. Go get an axe.
A chainsaw or an axe.
Or a chainsaw. Like pick the right tool for the job, whether that's knives. Don't use a hammer like a screwdriver. Don't use a screwdriver like a hammer. It's all about the right thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Get the right tool for the right job.
Yep. Yeah, Stasa says that the DC-53 is used more overseas.
I understand that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Not American made, so I don't need it.
Yeah, so it's all good. Yeah, Bangkok Mark says that he never heard of it until he was looking for a new camp knife, and he is over in Thailand, so that would probably came up, of course.
Well, I hope it's great. I'm not familiar with it, but I hope it is great. And if you have knives with it, I hope it performs just as well as it's supposed to.
What else we got here in the comments, real quick?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm reading some of the comments and seeing what some of the guys are saying.
But yeah, no, I've had some 3V stuff. My AD20 that I sold to Alex was 3V, one of my first 3V knives, and it was great.
Still back there somewhere.
I don't even remember exactly why I sold that. I was looking for something else. Like, I don't sell a ton of stuff. I just keep buying and collecting. And then I tell myself I'm going to sell this to pay for this other thing I bought. And then I either never sell it or nobody wants to buy it. So I end up just keeping the stuff anyway.
Yeah, no, I understand. And the market,
that's how it goes for me.
Yeah, the market is just fickle right now.
It is. Some of the stuff is like crazy priced for like overpriced. And I'm like, really? But okay, I'll try to sell it. And if somebody wants to pay me that, I'll take it. But, and then other things are just down. You can't give them away. So It's all weird. I'm like, whatever. I buy what I buy. And I know that, I might sell some stuff to help recoup the money. But if I don't sell the stuff, I'm good with buying it anyway. So it's fine.
You really never know whenever you're sitting on a gold mine or if you're sitting on something that isn't.
Yep.
And it's just the market, and it's kind of our economy and the market and the way things are right now. So you never know what's going to happen.
No, you never know. And don't buy knives as an investment.
No.
Don't ever do that. Don't buy watches as an investment. Just buy a knife that you like, and you may sell it and make a few bucks. You may sell it and lose a few bucks.
Yeah, and
I look at it is I sell something a year from now for 100 or 200 bucks less. Well, that was like rent. Like I rented it for 2 years.
Yeah, you got to enjoy it.
And I got to enjoy it for 2 years, and I sold it for 200 bucks less than what I bought it.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. Cost me 100 bucks a year to keep it. That's the kind of way I look at it. I just it's whatever, and then on some, sure, I got a great deal on it. So I sold it and I made 100 bucks.
Yeah.
Woo!
I saw a couple of knives earlier in the Killer Customs and Mid-Tech Maniacs that, oh my God, they were selling for so cheap and they still didn't sell. Like, what in the hell is going on? Like,
there's been some stuff that I'm like, damn, like I should just buy it just because it's such a deal. But
there was some shit that was so cheap. I even thought about buying it. I was like, I'd like to check out one of these. Like, it's like, nah, I better not.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, are there other makers that you like? And do you own knives from other like, what's one of your favorite makers outside of yourself, of course?
Well, I'm not even my favorite maker. I'm not, honestly.
And who would be your favorite maker then?
Glenn R. Hoven.
Okay.
He is definitely one of my favorite makers, but there's also Brandon Corbin. He's popular. He's one of my favorite makers as well. But Charles Jadradis is one of my favorite makers. And
I like that switchblade thing he makes, the Swiss Army switchblade.
Yeah, he's that
thing's so cool.
Super talented guy, and a lot of people I don't know if it's that he doesn't advertise like he should or what, but man, Charles is probably one of the most talented knife makers I know. Like, he's up there with fucking my grandfather with the amount of different mechanisms and the amount of different skill levels that he has making knives. And Charles Jadradis is probably one of the best knife makers out there.
And
he's one of my favorite for sure. But him, Brandon Corbin, Glenn R. Hoven, and Frank Fisher and Todd and Stan, of course, all those guys. But Like my outside guys that
Right.
no conversations or any kind of attachment to, I'm going to
Hmm.
say Jadradis and Brandon Corbin.
Okay. Yeah, I've got two Glennar Hovens in the closet right here that I need to ship back to their owner. Um, a phonics and a leak, I think is what
Yeah.
the small one is. So those belong to a good friend of mine, Chris, out in Idaho. They got to ship out to him.
I had so much fun whenever I was living out there with him.
Yeah, I bet.
We made like 10 knives while I was out there.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, it was such a good time because it was like way different than Texas, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the northernmost Texan there for a couple of months.
Okay.
And yeah, we had a great time. And yeah, we made some knives. I got to see like the country. They took
Yeah.
me everywhere, and I got to see just how beautiful the country is. And
Oh, for sure, man.
oh,
I can't
it was.
imagine going there.
I got to see the Northern Lights almost every night.
Oh, dude, that would be
That's
so
cool.
cool.
It was absolutely stunning, and all the open snow and the mountains and all that.
Yup.
It was just beautiful country. And yeah, I definitely miss hanging with Glenn, but I'm going to try and get him to come to Texas next time instead of me
That
going.
would be a culture shock.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get him to come to Texas.
I think that might be more of a culture shock for him coming to you than it was for you to go to him.
Yeah, and trust me, whenever I tell you, their culture is definitely different than ours.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, I think that's everywhere outside of the United States
Yes.
is different and in a lot of ways better in a lot of countries
Oh
and
yeah, it
worse in some
wasn't a
countries.
bad thing.
And it's good and bad. Same with like if you leave Texas and you go to California, it's different.
Yes.
And I'm not even going to say there's anything better about California because there's not. So we'll just leave it at that because California is kind of stupid. But
Yeah,
I was born and raised here. I don't know any better. And my oldest son lives here and just had a baby. So I'm here because of the baby. So, like, yeah, well, whatever.
understand. But yeah,
But
it's definitely different. But yeah, it wasn't bad. But yeah, I'm
mhm.
trying to get him and his wife to come out here if I can.
That
Whenever,
would be cool.
yeah, if we see each other again, I'm going to try to get him and his wife and and if he wants to bring his kid with him, get
Hmm.
here and he can hang here and we can make knives here at my shop.
No, that would be super cool. Bangkok Mark says, I'm right unless you're buying a Rolex or Patek Philippe. Yeah, no, you still those aren't investment pieces either. I have a Rolex. I mean, I've made a couple grand on it if I tried to sell it, maybe. But again, there's just so hard to buy. You're not really gonna make money on that. There's way better ways to do that. And
I
then
don't even,
Stasa says, or I could just buy some of those good deals and do reviews on them and be honest. Dude, trust me. You see my videos, I am the most honest MFer out there, and it creates some drama. A lot of the YouTube people don't like me because of that, but that's okay. I just tell like it is.
that's all
Like
right.
one of the knives that's coming out the videos tomorrow. It's a doozy. Just leave it at that.
That's all right. I'll you a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, that would be dope. Bless says Hovind is legendary. He is legendary, and he's making some watches and stuff now too, which are kind of cool.
Yes. Like he's a madman. He's a mad scientist.
Yep.
Anything that can be done or needs to be done, he can fucking do it. Like Glenn is super engineered. Like his brain is just wired for engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and he just figures shit out.
Yeah, which is great about a lot of the makers is they have that mindset of they're just going to get it done, and they're going to engineer the hell out of it to get it done. If that means they got to make a tool to make their knife, then they just grab some steel and they make some tool, a jig, or whatever, so that they can do it. Like very resourceful, you guys, and I think that's great.
I literally went back to Norway to get my tool.
Hmm.
That like a custom made tool for my hidden
Yeah.
hardware stuff. I literally went back to Norway to get that tool.
Yeah,
I did.
that's pretty cool.
I posted that in my group like a year ago, but I literally went there to get my fucking tool back.
There you go.
course, I spent a week there, hanging with Glenn and Christine.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I still went there to get my damn tool, and then
You
I
know?
flew back.
So Will Carey, he's a watch friend of mine. He goes, "Does Rob wear a watch? And
No,
if
sir.
so, what kind?" You do not normally wear a watch?
No, not at all.
Nah, see, he's younger. He's in his 30s still. So he got a clock on his phone. He don't need no watch.
Yeah, and I don't need to be timed anyway.
True. And I don't wear a watch when I'm at the house. I do put a watch on when I leave and go anywhere. I put on a watch, but generally around the house, I don't wear a watch. And I generally, unless I'm going outside to do some yard stuff or whatever, I don't generally have a knife in my pocket, just walking around the house. There's knives like all over my desk. There's knives in my dresser. There's knives out in the kitchen. Like there's knives all over the place, but there's generally not one in my pocket just walking around the house. Other than the King Battle has been in my pocket quite a bit just walking around the house because it's such a cool knife.
Yeah, I usually have a knife on me.
Yeah.
Always.
Will B says he's 39 and he doesn't get out of bed without my watch and at least one knife. And what watch is that? I'm going to guess it's an Apple Watch, but it's just a guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely get out of bed and I have a knife on me, but I don't wear a watch. I used to. I had one of those fitness watches or whatever.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, I'm fit enough. I don't need a watch to tell me.
Right. Yeah. No, I look at my step thing on my phone every so often. Yeah, I may get like 50 to 100 steps a day because I don't leave my house.
Yeah, no, I don't need a watch to tell me how many steps I got or if I'm fit or unfit or
right.
How many calories I know what I'm putting in my body and how much I'm burning. Like
you don't need your watch to remind you to stand up every hour for 5 minutes.
I don't need a watch to tell me shit.
Chef Rocky has 2 knives at all times in the house. Okay.
Nice. And a personal carry and a kitchen carry.
Will B has a Samsung Galaxy watch or a Citizen, so he must have an Android phone. So yeah, whatever. You don't have an iPhone, get out of here.
Well, he's got a Citizen watch. Those are okay.
He got a Citizen, which is cool, but he got Samsung
wrong with
Galaxy,
that.
so he must have an Android phone. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Knife, watch, flashlight, pistol at home and away. Okay, so yeah, Dennis, he's got his knife, his watch, his flashlight, and his pistola at home and away. Well, I live in California, so we're not going to talk about those types of things.
Uh-huh.
I do what I do. Let's just say that. Not everything I do is legal here in California.
Oh, shit.
Just going to go there. That's all.
Well, don't be a bad influence on the children.
Nope. Aussie Mike's, his EDC is his Apple phone. So, which is interesting. So we'll talk about that for a second here. Aussie Mike lives obviously in Australia outside of Melbourne, I think. Yeah, I think it's outside Melbourne. You can't carry a knife in Australia, like
really?
In the city and stuff like that. Out in the country where Crocodile Dundee and all that, you can. But around town and incorporated areas and stuff, you can't carry a knife, period.
Is Australia even open?
And he has more knives than Alex and I put together, probably.
Yeah, I've got some friends in Australia. I haven't heard from in a while. I need to hit them up.
Yeah, Australia's open. And he did confirm that he is in Melbourne. And Will B did confirm that he has a Galaxy S22 Ultra. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, so just because we like to collect things doesn't mean we can carry them or use them. We just like what we like. We like the knives. We like, carrying. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it. We just got into it and we're stuck with it. We like it. So we don't have to have a reason why we like collecting knives.
No, of course.
We just do. Whether we carry them or use them or not. I've got some fixed blades. And I want to say I'm not a fixed blade guy, but I like the fixed blades that I have. Aussie Mike's given me a couple. I've bought a few. I appreciate them. I kind of wish I could carry them and I was in an area or had, the use for them, but I don't. but I still like them.
No, I understand. I still like
Will Jerry has a Spyderco Salt for his pajama knife. And he's also probably got a shower firearm as well, in a plastic case inside the shower just for an emergency.
He's got shower whiskey and a shower firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
I understand.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, we're kind of running along here, which is fine, but we had some great questions from the spectator or the peanut gallery, if you will. And Rob, it was great to have you guys on. Any last minute questions from anybody that's still watching? We'll give it a minute here just in case.
Yeah, and thanks guys for having me on. Like I don't do anything like this, so it was different and exciting for me to interact and
I appreciate it. It's great.
It was exciting for us, man, because we do love knives. We love collecting knives.
Yeah.
And you're a big part of the knife community, man. Especially for me, because I've been in your group for a long time, following, and talking to a lot of those other collectors. So for me, it was great to have you on, kind of hear your perspective on knife making and stuff. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I certainly,
for sure. And we know you're a little bit, later in the day there too. So thank your girlfriend for letting you come out and play, because we appreciate that too.
She's crazy.
So it's all good. So yeah, everybody, thanks for watching. Go ahead and stay on, Rob. We're gonna go ahead and say goodbye to everybody here, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks for this show. And as always, check out Alex's channel. My normal videos come out every day and all that good stuff. You guys know how YouTube works, so do your thing. And thanks everyone for watching live, and everybody that's going to watch later tonight, tomorrow, and the next day. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate y'all.